So I'm going to do a tutorial on how to do a granny square. So the only materials you'll need is a suitable hook. So I'm using a size 4.5 hook. I've got 8-ply yarn. On your yarn, it will normally tell you what hook size is recommended. So for 8-ply yarn, normally like a 4 or a 5 is appropriate. And then some scissors, and that's literally all you need. So let's get started. So when starting a granny square, there's 2 different methods you can use. So the first one is if you chain 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you slip stitch into the first one. So yarn over and then pull through both, and then you do your crochets into the center, so that spot there. And the second method is a magic ring. So hold your yarn like this to the end there, go over, cross that over your fingers, so you've got a cross, hook under, grab, and then this is your ring here that you crochet into. So there's no right or wrong way. At least with the magic ring you can tighten up the hole that you're going to crochet into. So to start our granny square, as I've said before in previous tutorials, 3 chains represents a double crochet. So we're going to have 1, and then we're going to have 2, and then we're going to have 3. So there's our first cluster, and then we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to do another 3. And then I'm going to do another chain, and then another cluster of 3. Chain. Alright, so now we've done 3, 3, 3, 3. So then we need to join it to here. So there's a couple of different methods. Oh, before we do that, we need to do a chain 1. So my preferred method is slip stitch just into that space, and then slip stitch back into that gap. So now we're going to work from this one here, and now we can pull on our end to close that hole. So now we're in this space here. So now we want to start our row 2. So once again, 1, 2, 3, and then 2 more double crochets, 1, 2, and we're on a corner, so a chain, and then into that same one we want to do a cluster of 3 double crochets. Great, so we can see now that's our corner. So next we want to work into this one. Now it's a personal preference or not if you want to do a chain before moving on to the next one. I personally don't, but you can do a chain here if you like. So there's our second corner. So then we want to work into this space. So that's finished. So like I said before, slip stitch to there, and then slip stitch again back into the gap, and then a cluster of 3. So once again, slip stitch to that one, and slip stitch, and then you can keep going. So I'm going to demonstrate if I was to change colour each round. So once again, I've done the magic ring, and then I've done 4 by 3 clusters. So would slip stitch to there, and then before I slip stitch to the next one, so I've cut my yarn, and I change my colour, so I'm changing to white. So add that on, pull that tight, and now I've got my white. And then when I go back into the gap and I slip stitch, pull my white through. So now I've got white, So then I would do my 1, 2, 3 chains of white and then continue with my double crochets. So now I've done a row of white. So then we're going to change back to pink. So slip stitch into here and then into here. This is just my preferred method. Some people like slip stitch onto the side of that one. I just prefer to do it this way. So I'll slip stitch to there, cut my white, join my pink, and then slip stitch back into this gap. So hook in, grab my pink. Now I've got pink. So these are my 2 granny squares that I've made. So I've made a plain pink one and then a pink and white one, so you can see the rows easier. So the good thing about granny squares is they're so versatile. So you can make these obviously bigger, you can make a heap of them, join them together, make whatever you like, or you can just keep going and going with the exact same pattern and it just repeats itself and you can make a big blanket. It was actually one of the first projects I ever did when I learnt to crochet many years ago as a teenager. It's literally just a big granny square. So yeah, let me know if there's any other tutorials you want to do, but this is just the classic granny square using double crochets.